Ladies and gentlemen, today we delve into a crucial question. What might Canadian retaliation look like? In the ever-changing landscape of global politics, economics, and diplomacy, Canada, known for its measured and diplomatic approach, sometimes finds itself needing to respond assertively. Canada has a long history of using economic countermeasures as a means of responding to external pressures, unfair trade practices, and geopolitical challenges. As a country deeply integrated into the global economy, it possesses significant leverage in various sectors, including energy, agriculture, and manufacturing. When faced with economic aggression from another nation, such as unfair tariffs, trade restrictions, or other punitive measures, Canada has several strategic options at its disposal to retaliate effectively while minimizing harm to its own industries. One of the most common forms of economic retaliation is the imposition of counter tariffs. This strategy was notably used during trade disputes with the United States, particularly in response to the tariffs imposed on Canadian steel and aluminum. In retaliation, Canada introduced its own set of tariffs on a range of American goods, including steel products, whiskey, orange juice, and ketchup. These targeted measures not only imposed economic pressure on specific industries in the opposing country, but also sent a strong diplomatic message that Canada would not tolerate unfair trade practices. By selecting goods that had a political or economic impact on key regions of the opposing country, Canada was able to ensure that its retaliation had maximum effectiveness without unnecessarily escalating tensions. Beyond tariffs, Canada can also utilize export restrictions on critical resources as a form of economic retaliation. As a country rich in natural resources, particularly in energy, lumber, and minerals, Canada has the power to limit the supply of essential goods to nations that engage in hostile trade policies. For example, if a country imposes unfair restrictions on Canadian goods, Canada could respond by restricting the export of essential minerals such as lithium, nickel, or uranium, which are crucial for industries like electric vehicle production, defense, and nuclear energy. This type of strategic economic measure can create significant challenges for an adversary's industries while reinforcing Canada's position as a key supplier of global commodities. Another major economic tool Canada can leverage is trade diversification. Instead of engaging in direct confrontation with an adversarial country, Canada can shift its economic focus toward alternative markets, reducing its reliance on any single trading partner. This approach was evident when Canada strengthened trade relationships with Europe through the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CTA, and with Asia through the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTP. By expanding its trade networks and seeking new economic partnerships, Canada can decrease its vulnerability to economic pressure from any one country. This also helps create a more resilient economy that is less susceptible to disruptions caused by sudden policy changes from a single trading partner. Canada can also use economic incentives and policy adjustments to protect domestic industries that are affected by foreign retaliation. This includes providing subsidies or financial assistance to industries targeted by unfair trade measures. During past trade disputes, the Canadian government has supported sectors such as agriculture, steel, and manufacturing through direct financial aid and policy reforms that help businesses remain competitive in the global market. By reinforcing domestic industries, Canada ensures that its economic response is sustainable and does not disproportionately harm its own workforce or businesses. Additionally, Canada can impose stricter investment regulations to limit foreign influence in key sectors of its economy. If a nation imposes unfair restrictions on Canadian businesses operating abroad, Canada can respond by tightening regulations on foreign companies seeking to invest in or acquire Canadian firms. This approach not only protects national interests, but also sends a clear signal that Canada will take firm action against economic aggression. Economic countermeasures allow Canada to respond to external pressures in a way that is strategic and calculated. By leveraging counter tariffs, resource restrictions, trade diversification, domestic support policies, and investment regulations, Canada can defend its economic interests while maintaining its reputation as a fair and reliable trading partner. This approach ensures that retaliation is effective without escalating tensions, unnecessarily striking a balance between economic strength and diplomatic stability. Diplomatic actions are a powerful tool that Canada can use in response to external pressures, hostile policies, or violations of international agreements. As a country known for its commitment to diplomacy, Canada often seeks peaceful and cooperative solutions first. However, when necessary, it is capable of taking firm diplomatic actions to protect its national interests. Retaliatory diplomatic measures can take various forms, including expelling diplomats, imposing sanctions, and strengthening alliances with like-minded nations to counterbalance the influence of adversarial countries. One of the most direct and symbolic forms of diplomatic retaliation is the expulsion of foreign diplomats. If a country is found to be engaging in espionage, interfering in Canadian affairs, or violating diplomatic protocols, Canada has the right to declare its diplomats persona non grata and order them to leave the country. This has been done on several occasions, often in coordination with allied nations, to send a strong message against foreign interference. The expulsion of diplomats serves both as a punitive measure and as a deterrent, signaling that Canada will not tolerate actions that undermine its sovereignty or security. Another key diplomatic tool is the imposition of targeted sanctions. Unlike broad economic countermeasures, diplomatic sanctions focus on individuals, entities, or governments responsible for hostile actions. Canada has used this strategy in cases involving human rights violations, election interference, and military aggression. Under its Magnitsky Act, Canada has imposed sanctions on individuals involved in corruption and human rights abuses, restricting their financial assets and travel privileges. These sanctions serve as a means of holding foreign officials accountable while minimizing economic harm to ordinary citizens in the targeted country. Beyond sanctions, Canada can leverage its international influence to isolate adversarial nations on the global stage. This can involve working within multilateral organizations such as the United Nations, NATO, the G7, or the G20 to build coalitions against countries that act against international norms. By rallying allies and coordinating responses, Canada can amplify its diplomatic impact, making it harder for the opposing nation to ignore global pressure. In many cases, coordinated diplomatic actions have led to policy reversals or concessions from governments that initially refused. Diplomatic retaliation can also take the form of withdrawing from bilateral agreements or suspending diplomatic talks. If another country consistently acts against Canadian interests, Canada can respond by freezing negotiations, canceling state visits, or withdrawing from cooperative agreements. This approach has been used in response to security threats, trade disputes, and human rights violations. While not always a permanent measure, withdrawing from diplomatic engagements serves as a strong warning that Canada is unwilling to continue normal relations under unacceptable conditions. In some cases, Canada can use public diplomacy and strategic messaging as a form of retaliation by openly condemning actions taken by an adversarial nation through official statements, media coverage, and diplomatic summits. Canada can shape global narratives and influence international opinion. This kind of diplomatic response is particularly effective when combined with efforts to highlight human rights issues, election interference, or breaches of international law. A strong diplomatic stance backed by public support can pressure governments to change their policies or seek resolution through dialogue. Diplomatic retaliation is about protecting Canada's interests while maintaining international stability. Whether through expelling diplomats, imposing sanctions, isolating adversarial nations, strengthening. Canada has long been known for its peaceful approach to global affairs, but it also recognizes the importance of national security and defense. When faced with external threats, military provocations, or cyber attacks, Canada has the capability to respond through a range of defense and security measures. These responses can include increasing military presence, strengthening cybersecurity, expanding intelligence operations, and reinforcing partnerships with key allies such as NATO and NORAD. While Canada does not pursue aggressive military actions, it ensures that its sovereignty and security remain protected through strategic deterrence and preparedness. One of the most visible forms of defense retaliation is the increase in military presence and readiness. If a country poses a direct security threat, whether through territorial disputes, military exercises near Canadian borders, or provocative actions, Canada can respond by strengthening its military capabilities in key areas. This may involve deploying additional troops to strategic locations, conducting military drills, or increasing surveillance in vulnerable regions such as the Arctic. As the Arctic becomes a point of geopolitical interest due to climate change and resource accessibilities, Canada has invested in expanding its defense capabilities in the region to deter any attempts at territorial encroachment. A well-prepared military presence serves as a deterrent, signaling that Canada is ready to protect its sovereignty if necessary. Another crucial security measure is enhancing cybersecurity defenses and counter cyber operations. In the modern world, cyber warfare is just as significant as traditional military conflicts. Canada, like many other nations, has been targeted by cyber attacks from foreign actors attempting to steal sensitive information, disrupt critical infrastructure, or interfere with democratic processes. In response, Canada has strengthened its cybersecurity systems by increasing funding for the Communications Security Establishment, CSE, and working closely with international intelligence agencies to prevent cyber threats. Additionally, Canada has the capability to retaliate against cyber attacks through defensive cyber operations, where it identifies and neutralizes threats before they can cause significant damage. By bolstering cybersecurity, Canada not only protects its own national security, but also ensures the stability of key institutions and industries. A key aspect of security retaliation involves expanding intelligence and counter-espionage operations. Canada's intelligence agencies, such as the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, CSIS, play a vital role in monitoring foreign interference, espionage, and security threats. If a foreign country is found to be engaging in espionage activities or interfering in Canadian affairs, Canada can take decisive action by dismantling foreign intelligence networks, expelling spies, and tightening security protocols around sensitive government and corporate sectors. Intelligence sharing agreements with key allies, particularly through the Five Eyes Alliance, comprising Canada, the US, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand, allow Canada to coordinate efforts in countering international security threats. Another important defense strategy is strengthening military alliances and security partnerships. Canada is an active member of NATO, NORAD, and other international defense organizations, ensuring that it has strong allies in the event of a security threat. If a country acts aggressively towards Canada, one of the most effective responses is to reinforce military cooperation with allied nations. This could include increasing joint military exercises, expanding defense agreements, or participating in collective security initiatives that deter hostile actions. By demonstrating its ability to work closely with powerful military partners, Canada can discourage potential aggressors from escalating tensions. In cases where foreign nations impose security threats through economic or technological means, Canada can respond with stricter national security policies. This could involve blocking foreign investments in critical industries such as telecommunications, energy, and artificial intelligence to prevent foreign influence over key infrastructure. For example, Canada has taken steps to restrict companies linked to foreign governments from participating in its 5G network development, citing national security concerns. By implementing tighter regulations on foreign ownership and technology access, Canada ensures that its critical industries remain protected from potential security threats. While Canada prioritizes diplomacy and peaceful conflict resolution, it is also prepared to take strong defensive measures when necessary, whether through increasing military readiness, strengthening cybersecurity, expanding intelligence operations, reinforcing alliances, or implementing stricter security regulations. Canada has a range of options to protect its national security. These actions serve as a clear message that while Canada is committed to maintaining peace and cooperation, it will not hesitate to defend its sovereignty and